Well, it's all over in Beantown. It was a wire-to-wire victory for the Celtics. They manhandled the Kings, Jerry, 112-93. Not much to really say.
No, there was really nothing to say. I mean, I'd say probably from the worst of it is just imagine if you were a Kings fan and lived in the Northeast and paid $300 to see the game,
Yeah,
in Boston. I mean, that'd been awful. I mean, it's tough to watch sitting in my recliner, for
yeah,
that matter. I mean,
yeah,
it really was a case where the Celtics, won the game in the first half,
yep.
and really after that, it's just meaningless numbers and stats and all that.
I'm really glad you said that because I think a lot of times, and you've always talked about this, teams make a lot, and we're not at the end of the year yet, but based on what you just said, I think teams make a lot of mistakes with player evaluation at the end of the year and in games where you talk about meaningless minutes and things like this. This game was over at halftime, right? And
Right.
I mean, I don't even, I was happy with the way Max Reynaud played tonight. Can I say that?
Yeah, I think you can. I thought, I was just kind of texting with a buddy, my buddy from Indiana, Michael Bryan, and I just said, there's one bright spot, and that's Max Reynaud.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yep. That's it.
Yeah.
I would you say the Kings were not competitive tonight? Would you say, I mean, how would you look at this team right now? Because on this road trip, at least they have been competitive in their games, right? They weren't,
Yeah.
But not tonight.
Not tonight. No, they did not compete. They really didn't, basically you saw, the Celtics come out ready to play and did played hard, scrappy, tough, and efficient. Kings really came out, I mean, obviously the Celtics were rested, the Kings weren't, but you could see early on that one team was ready to really go at it and the other wasn't.
Yeah.
And of course that just separated them right away. And so, yeah, really a disappointing performance. I mean, without Jaylen Brown, certainly, not saying that the Celtics were, but he's one of the best players in the league.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and so, yeah, and of course Peyton Pritchard's a terrific player.
Yes, he
But
is.
I mean, he might as well have been Jerry West tonight.
Hey, you know what? Celtics fans probably would rather you compare him to maybe Bob Cousy or someone other
Yeah,
than Jerry
yeah,
West, the Laker. Okay.
yeah. That's an excellent point there. But if nothing else, if I can just piss off a few Celtic fans, that's okay too.
The other bright spot about tonight's game, because I was not aware of this, is that I found out tonight that the Kings do have Devin Carter still on the team. Okay, so there's another bright spot. I actually did see him get onto the floor. So I'm
Yeah,
I'm trying to
he
find
got minutes. They weren't very productive, and he looked kind of he was looking for something to happen. It just didn't, and that's too bad. There's it's tough. I didn't expect him to do a whole lot, but he did less than I expected.
Yeah. Yeah. Pritchard, by the way, tonight, 12 of 16, 29 points on 16 shots. That's pretty efficient.
Sure is. I mean, there again, I think the Boston does such not just a great job of drafting because he was a late first round pick, and and he's gotten better.
Yeah.
He was a guy that a lot of people weren't sure he'd stay in the league, and now not only a sixth man of the year last year or whatever, but he's a key cog in a championship caliber team now.
I want to talk to you and make a comparison here. Jason Tatum with the Achilles last year in the playoffs. I think you could make the argument he's their best player. I agree with you about Jaylen Brown, but the point is you would probably put Jason Tatum right there. And yet Boston has really had a tremendous season so far. I don't know if I would say they're championship caliber, but they're having a very good season without Tatum. And it kind of reminds me a little bit when the Kings played without Chris Webber all the way until March 2nd. And they had the best record in the NBA when Chris came back on March 2nd. And it just goes to show you that this Celtics team is really good and they have a lot of depth, and that when they lose a key piece, they can keep moving forward at a very successful rate.
I think too the thing that I think surprised everybody is, they clearly started the season, I mean, expecting to not compete.
Right.
They got rid of Porzingis and Horford and really got rid of some contracts, trying to get under the cap and get some more room and things like that. And then all of a sudden, surprise, surprise, they pick up guys like Luka Garza and Simons and guys like that, and they're just almost as good as last year, even without Tatum.
Yes.
And I will say the other thing. I think Jaylen Brown is just as simply established himself as one of the top 5-6 players in the league now, because he's a two-way guy. I mean, he's one of the elite defenders as well as one of the best offensive players, and I mean, he's certainly
Is
not
he a
the
more
scorer.
talented Drew Holiday?
Oh yeah.
But what I mean is, though, I know he's more talented than Drew Holiday, but I mean, it's the same concept, right? Drew Holiday was a very, very good two-way player, but Jaylen Brown is also a very good two-way player, but he's better than Holiday in both areas. But I mean, you don't see a lot of players like that in today's game. That's why I brought up Holiday's name.
No, you don't. I mean, and of course, Drew is such a winner. Now
Yes.
he's starting to lose it a little bit.
Yes.
I mean, and that there's another key guy they lost, but that also gave Brown the chance to maybe step up his game. I mean, you almost have to compare him, I think, to the Kobe Bryants to some degree, and the Jordans, the guys that really could guard you.
Yeah.
And you couldn't stop him. I'm not saying he's in that category, but he's an elite player. I really think he's better than Tatum. I've always thought that. Tatum's a better scorer generally, but I'm not sure he is anymore. But like I say, I think it's easier for them to win without Tatum than it would be to win without Brown.
Jerry, the Kings right now have the worst record in the NBA. Out of all 30 teams, they are the worst. I asked you this a month ago, and I'm going to ask you again. Is this the worst team that the Sacramento Kings have ever had?
I think it might. Well, I think it's the second worst. The team that Reggie started the year with and Kenny Nat finished at 117, I think was worse. I don't think they played harder, to be honest, most nights.
I would agree.
But they were it was a worse team, and they were far less talented than this team. That's my opinion. I mean, this team has a lot more talent than that team did, and this. But it's as we've talked so much. There are just too many of certain things, and the roster just doesn't fit any way, shape, or form.
Sabonis, load management, rest management for the knee. I don't know what you call it anymore.
Maybe trade management.
It drives me crazy. One road game left against Washington. I know Kings fans are going to hope that the Kings lose that game, and I understand that. But boy, oh boy, it's your last chance to get a win on this road trip. And with the Kings, I think they're going to come out and play well. And the reason why I say that, I'm not ignoring what I watched tonight, but they have been playing competitively on this trip. They get a day off. I would expect them, I mean, maybe I'm fooling myself, to play well against Washington.
Oh, I'd be surprised they don't win. I really would be. I mean, they're better than Washington, and and they've been embarrassed tonight. And generally speaking, yeah, I'd expect a bounce back game. And and Washington doesn't have Trae Young available, that sort of thing. I mean, no, I'll be very surprised if they don't get that win. But there is the thing that you hate to be okay with losses, but it's almost at the stage of where you are.
Yeah, you want to lose
because you almost got to stay in that bottom four to be guaranteed to have a chance at one of those elite picks, which it does look like this may be a year where you can get an elite player, like a Cooper Flag or Con Knipple that we saw last night. I mean, there's going to be some really good players available, and that's, if you're a Kings fan, I don't know what else you can hope for at this stage.
That game tonight in Washington, as you talk about, they got embarrassed. It was 142-111. The Lakers went in and beat the Wizards. The Lakers were coming off a really bad loss as well, so they bounced back. Other games tonight in the NBA, the Suns are leading the Cavaliers 49-45. You've got the Nuggets on top of the Clippers. The big fella's back, Nikola Jokic, 53-50 there with a minute left to go in the half. The Knicks polished off the Blazers tonight at the Garden, 127-97, and the Pelicans, they won again. They beat the Grizzlies 114 to 106. Not much to talk about tonight, folks. I mean, I'll take some phone calls after Jerry leaves us, but I mean, other than Max Reynaud, I don't really have many things to say that I could look at and go, "Oh yeah, that was good tonight." I didn't see good tonight. I really didn't.
The thing that bothers me about as much as anything, and
Yep.
we've talked about this over the years, but the assist to turnover ratio has become just an absolute joke almost. And this team was taking care of the ball earlier in the year. I'd like to give Boston some credit there, but I don't think they deserve much credit for most of those turnovers. Just sloppy play,
19.
just no real value of the ball at all. And and I think trying to play at a pace they're not capable of sometimes at that too. But that's almost been a consistent here in the last couple of weeks, to where you just haven't had hardly any really good turnover to assist games.
19-14 was the ratio tonight, assist to turnovers. That's just not good. I mean, it's
No,
just
you
not
you you if you're going to win, you got to have over 2-1, and
Yeah.
you really should have 2.5-1, and they just haven't been doing it, and you can see why. Just very careless, sloppy play.
Well, I've got good news for you. It's only 364 days until your next birthday.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't worry about birthdays until they come up. It's like you used to talk about players, being day to day. I said, hell, and we're all day to day. That's the way I approach that. So I'm just, it's just one of those things. It's the season is a ways to
Yeah.
go. We're almost 2/3 through, certainly, but man. I don't know. Other than almost playing for the draft. I hate to say it. That's really almost the only optimistic thing you can take out of it. I mean, it's good to see the rookies. You hope that they develop. I do think, honestly, Cardwell, I think there's a player there. I like where he is in his development in his first year, probably better than Queta, who we saw tonight, who's turned into a productive player for Boston. And so there's that. But overall, you get kind of get what you deserve in the NBA. When you're not ready to play, you get your butt beat.
You know how I feel about Boston, but the one thing I really miss about going into do a game in Boston was sitting at the media dinner table with you, and almost every time we were there,
Yeah.
Tommy Heinsohn, and listening to you and Tommy Heinsohn talk. It was like I can't even. I just shut up. I didn't say anything. I just loved listening to you talk. What was it about Tommy Heinsohn that you enjoyed so much?
Well, he's such an honest guy, and of course he had the absolute knowledge of the league. Obviously, a great player, which I remember him as a great player. I'm one of the few people who did. And then, of course, he was a terrific coach, a couple championship teams, and knew all the top players. I mean, I always just like getting his opinion, because he'd give you an opinion. You might not agree with it, but he'd give you an opinion. I really respected that, and he, of course, he'd like to bust my chops a little bit, and
Sure.
of course, I like to bust his a little bit. So, yeah, it's really sad when he passed. But
Yeah.
Tommy, you'd almost have to put him in the same category with Red and Havlicek and
Yes.
and Bird. I mean, there's there's with all the greats there. If you get past, you wouldn't get past the top 5 and without getting Tommy in there pretty close, would you?
Oh boy, no. I used to love that, and then we used to go out onto the court, and if Danny Ainge were out there, it was always nothing but laughs with Danny.
Yeah, Danny. Well, Danny, what a wonderful personality, and obviously great executive, and he set up the Celtics to maintain outstanding play and players with Brad Stevens. I think Brad, that was a gutsy hire when he made that years ago as a coach. And then, of course, now Brad has done a terrific job as GM and
Yes.
his hires, and class franchise. That's really all you can say.
Take me back to, I think it was 1986, when at the old Arco 1, 10,333, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, DJ, the Celtics, and the Kings won that game. That was like their Super Bowl. That was their coming out party almost for Sacramento. Wow. The crazy fanatic barn beating the Celtics. What do you remember the most about that game?
Oh yeah, that was all. I had a lot of memories because of course, I was an assistant, and Celtics were obviously elite team. Championship, great team, and we not only we beat them with Larry missed 2 straight free throws at the end,
Which is
I
unheard
don't know
of,
that
right?
he's ever done that, before or after. But I always remember, of course, I remember going out to drink a few beers because we had a little bet. Whoever loses buys. Of course, that's the last time. That's the last time he had to buy, by the way. But it's always. But
Yeah.
anyway, we had a few. But I always remember it's funny too because I always remember just kind of got up and I dropped him off at the hotel after we had too many. It's a good thing that he said, "Well," he said, "You guys lucked out." He said, I'll never miss 2 again." But he said, "I'll tell you one thing. Portland's going to pay for what happened tonight because they played Portland the next night and he got 49."
Hey, and that's what made him so great. I mean,
Yeah.
in addition to everything else, that competitive spirit, the like that was such a great quality that he had.
Yeah, I've always said that's what all the greats have.
Yeah.
I mean, they're to varying degrees of it, but that there's way more competitive than just a normal professional player. I always remember Bill Russell telling me that too. He said, he said, "I'm not normal." He said, "There's nothing normal about me." He said, that I couldn't have done what I did, and he said it'd be like comparing horses, comparing a thoroughbred like a top professional to a Clydesdale. He said that, and I always thought that's a pretty good analogy,
Yeah.
and just the once you're around some of the true greats, just how they view things. Jordan, I think as fans, we all saw in Jordan Last Dance.
Yeah.
To realize just
Yep.
how focused he was, and
Yep.
I mean, the Magics and the Birds and Elijah. Well, I mean, all the true greats were, to some level in that bracket.
Was Phil Johnson the head coach during that game that you were referring to?
Yes.
And then
Yes,
was
he
it
was.
that year or the following year that you replaced Phil? Was it
The
that
following
season?
year.
The
Yeah,
following season. That's
year. Yeah.
the following year you replaced Phil after the Kings lost to the Lakers, where they scored only 4 points in the first quarter without a field goal. They were 4
Yep.
free throws, correct?
40 to 4 free throws. and it's one of those things too where, I mean, obviously it's embarrassing and terrible, but great shooters like Theus and Eddie Johnson had lots of good shots. I mean, it wasn't like I mean, and not that the Lakers were clearly better, but they were Showtime. But I mean, it's kind of game that there was no reason other than just outstanding players missing easy shots. I mean, normally that would have been a 35 to 27 quarter, but
Yeah. How many beers did you and Phil have after the game that night?
however many we could find, I'll tell you.
Did Phil have a sense?
Because
Did Phil have a sense the next day on the commercial flight home that he was going to get fired?
Didn't know it then, but once, I mean, I think he had an inkling, because we had a practice the next day in LA before we flew back.
Oh,
and it was a pretty dispirited practice, I might add. But yeah, I think Phil kind of had a hunch what would happen, and then I think the next day is when they pulled the plug. Yeah, it's really Phil. Phil's a good coach. He proved that. In fact, I always say one of the most interesting things until Mike Brown won Coach of the Year, the only other Kings coach in the franchise's history was Phil Johnson back in 73, 74 with the Kansas City Kings. He was Coach of the Year one year. So that's one of those forgotten stats.
yeah. How about that? Well, we speak to you here on a Friday night, and I just wonder if this weekend we're going to start seeing some real movement at the NBA trade deadline. You've been on both sides of that, both with a coach and as a general manager. They generally tend to get right up to the finish line with the trade deadline on Thursday, which means Wednesday, Thursday morning. But We'll see. I wondered. I'm just just a bold prediction, just a gut feeling. Do you think there will be a lot of activity in the next couple of days leading up to next Thursday?
I don't unless Giannis is moved. I mean, I think that would spur some things, but I think there'll be some movement. But it's a little tougher now than it was 20 years ago. With all the aprons and the penalties and
Yeah.
all that,
Yep.
and salaries have to fit a little better and closer, and so there's a little more into it. But I think there's a lot of desire of teams to trade. I think there's a lot of teams that like to make moves. Not certainly Kings are one of them,
Yep.
but my guess is that you'll see about a third of what you would want to see.
Jerry, have a good weekend.
Well, I'll try, buddy, and like you say, I think we'll see a better game and a better team effort on Sunday, and it won't be hard to clear the bar of what we saw tonight.
By the way, we will not be doing that show on Sunday, the matinee. Ryan's gone. I'm gone. We love Jerry, and we know Jerry's very talented, but we don't want to put Jerry with the burden of doing the show by himself.
No, Jerry's not that talented. Let's tell the truth. Jerry's pretty limited. So.
Have a good weekend, all right?
All right. Take care, Grant.
All right, take care. Unbelievable. Well, if you don't like Jerry Reynolds, you got a problem. Wow. He's great. All right, let's get to a call or two. Hello, Wade.
Hey, Grant. How's it going?
Good, Wade. Thank you for hanging on.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime Jerry's on, you learn so much. And there's, the way Jerry kind of recalls the career, it's pretty interesting to listen to that perspective. I just had a two-part question. First part, do you think that, I guess Doug Christie makes it through the season, right?
He will make it through the season. It doesn't make any sense to replace him now.
And I was watching Luka tonight, triple-double. I'm just wondering, did Vlade ever say his thought process on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've gone over this hundreds of times.
Sorry.
I mean, it was an organizational decision because they felt that Fox was going to be their franchise piece and that Luka and Fox would not mesh together. They would not be able to play together. And that's why they didn't take him.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough.
You know what? And I'm not making an excuse for the Kings because they were flat out made a mistake. You know what's interesting to me about that, Wade?
Mm-hmm.
The Phoenix Suns had the number 1 pick in the draft, and they didn't take Luka. And
they took Ayton.
Okay, and the Atlanta Hawks had the number 3 pick in the draft, and they didn't take Luka. They made a trade. Okay, I mean, officially they took Luka, but they took him for Dallas. So just think about that for a minute, that the teams that had a chance to get Luka, Phoenix, Sacramento, and Atlanta, all went in a different direction.
That's true. It was like, I forget who it was. I think it was the Timberwolves with the draft that Curry came out where they drafted 2 point guards and none of them were Curry.
3 point guards that year. One other aspect of the Vlade and the Kings thing, and I know this because I used to spend a lot of time with the scouts in Europe and with Vlade. They knew back then as great as he was, and he was great in Europe, if I can use the term laziness, his off-season lack of fitness, taking care of himself, conditioning, that was also something that was discussed within the Kings circles leading up to the draft.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's kind of why Ayton went number 1 because, he's 6'10", 6'11". He's built well. But the only thing that Ayton doesn't have is a motor, or he just doesn't care about being great. Because with all the tools he has, he should be great.
Should be, but he's not. And I think he's more like 7 feet. But still, I understand the point you're taking.
Yeah.
Hey, Wade, appreciate you leading us off. You have a good weekend, okay?
Yeah. Thank you, Grant. You as well.
All right, thank you. Very good. Let's get to Reedy. What's up, Reedy?
Hey, what's going on, Grant? How my boy doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself? I hope you're on the way to a good weekend, my friend.
Man, I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I just watching this game. We talk about it every week, man. I just got a quick question tonight, man. Okay, we don't make any trades. Do we just, ride them through their contracts, DeRozan, Levine, or do we do some type of buyout this at the end of the year? Because I know
They're not.
Levine can.
They're not going to do a buyout with Levine. It's just way too much. They're not.
Really, you don't think it'll be just still worth? It's like because he just doesn't fit. It's just horrible to
I
see
know.
there.
I know.
And then it's like it's
No.
just like an eyesore. Look at the team. Everyone, it seems like nobody can create their own shot. They're just dribbling, and then like
It's terrible.
drive and then figure out, who I'm gonna pass to, like they're midair. It's just kind of
Terrible.
tough to see, man. Or just watch right now. So
I'll tell you what. Your question is a fair question. Why don't we broach that after the trade deadline when we know who's on the team and who's not? I think it would be easier to discuss then.
Yeah. I just want again and have a great. And if I'll probably see you Sunday night.
Take care. We're not doing a show on Sunday. Our next show will be on the first home game back. We have no show for the Washington game. All right, but I will be on.
All right, I'll be there. I'll be listening.
Thank you, buddy. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too, man. Bye-bye.
All right. It says, Grant, stop making excuses. I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you the truth. If you don't want the truth, then go listen to someone else. I mean, really, I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you, I lived it. I was there. I know. I also know about New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. They're available 24/7. NewWorksPlumbing.com or 916-713-1010. Water heaters, water line repair, sewer repair, water filtration, gas lines. That's New Works Plumbing. Again, available around the clock 24/7. New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. That was a horrible performance tonight by the Kings, was it not? Is Doug Christie going to give me an unacceptable tonight on the postgame show when I go back and watch it? Right? Would I call that unacceptable? Like, how would you characterize the game tonight? 112-93, a wire-to-wire victory. You look at the start of this game, right? We always talk about the start. The game was over at the end of the first quarter. How many times have we talked about the Kings giving up 40 points to start the game? 40-25, right? Now, I better not hear Doug Christie talk about how the Kings won the second half and point to that. Boston was on cruise control. You could see all of that. So I don't want to hear about the second half. The second half was meaningless tonight. The game was over in the first half. The game was over at halftime. It was over. It was actually over at the end of the first quarter. I mean, I don't want to hear anything about the second half. Nothing. Unbelievable. Doug is the best in the business watching tape. Film is what he calls it. He must watch a lot of it because that's what he says. And I understand why. He's trying to figure out what they're doing wrong and try to fix it. So I get the fact why he's doing that. A lot of coaches do. What grade would I give Scott Perry so far? I would give him a B for being patient. So far, I would give him a C-. Reynaud looks like a good draft pick. I'm going to give Neek incomplete. I don't know about him yet. Schroeder, to me, horrible. Westbrook, beyond horrible. Valanciunas, for nothing to Denver, horrible. Cardwell, A. Give him an A on that. Precious Achua, a B+. Max, an A. But bad roster. Schroeder, as your own free agent signing, terrible. Westbrook, no sense. C to C-. C to C-. I'm curious. What grade would you give? By the way, this is the 50th game of the year. You know that? The 50th game of the year. The Kings through 50 games are 12-38. 12-38. Is Max a future starter or just a backup big? He's a starter. He'll be a future starter. He will talk about the standard. Yeah, the standard's really good, isn't it? Yeah, the standard. That's what I want with the team, the standard. Well, the standard that he keeps talking about has this team with the worst record in the entire NBA. That's right. There are 30 teams in the league, and the Kings are the worst. That's it. They're the worst. That's not Bennett's. They're the top. Sacramento, Roseville, the West Side Grill in Rockland. How about brunch tomorrow and Sunday at Bennett's West Side Grill or Sacramento and Roseville, the 3 locations? Bennett'sRestaurants.com. That's Bennett'sRestaurants.com, and enjoy your brunch this weekend. Speaking of food, I got some nice messages from Dorian tonight. Dorian and his girlfriend went back to Carmine's for their last dinner in New York before flying home. So they're doing it right. 2 meals at Carmine's, one with Patrick and then one with his girlfriend. Good job right there. Good job. Bennett's does deserve an A. I would agree with you on that. Brian deserves an A. I'd give him an A+, but yes, clearly. You're exactly right. So let me set the schedule for you. We are not going to do a show on Sunday. And then we'll be back on Fox Sports Sacramento Monday at 3 o'clock. So I hope you can tune in then. 104.7 FM, 890 AM. Be sure and download the Fox Sports KSAC app. That's Monday at 3 o'clock. No show for the Kings and the Wizards. Celtics announcers were making fun of us for waving Cueto. I did. I watched that. They're right. They should. They made fun of the Kings a lot tonight. Yeah. Yep. I didn't have a problem with them at all. Everything they said was true. Everything. 112-93, the final, as the Celtics roll a wire-to-wire game. The game was over at the end of the first quarter. Over. And we talk about Cueto, we talk about his stats tonight. 29 minutes, 10 points, 15 rebounds. Hello. Not good enough to play for Sacramento, though. I have not been to Gallagher Steakhouse in New York. I've heard great things about it, but I have not been there. So I can't say there. I can't say. All right, I'm not going to go that long. What are we going to talk about, right? The Kings get blown out. It was embarrassing. Other than Max Reynaud, there's nothing to talk about. You got one game left on the road trip. It's coming up against Washington, and you have the worst record in the NBA. And the game Sunday coming up could very well determine draft order. So you have to look at that. All right? I don't know what else to say. I really don't. 112-93. Awful. Flat out awful. And on that note, I'll wish you a good weekend, everybody. Appreciate you. Stay safe. And don't forget Monday, 3 o'clock on Fox Sports Sacramento. For Rhino, who's off this weekend, and for Jerry, Grant Napier saying so long. Again, have yourself a great weekend. Bye-bye.